Hello everybody. I've noticed recently that my channel fader on my channel 3 on my mixer has been playing around, meaning that even when it's all pushed all the way down, it actually lets some of the sound bleed through. And this is partially the reason why I haven't been using this channel for the last couple of weeks. Um, what I noticed was that when I push the fader to the left, and when the fader is brought all the way down, I actually don't hear any sound, but when I release that, and you can see that there's a little bit of a wobble there, and when I release that, it actually starts letting some of the sound through. So what I decided to do is obviously replace this fader, and because I couldn't find a lot of videos about this specifically for this type of mixer, I decided to just share this with you so you guys can see the process and potentially do that yourselves if you need to in the future. So the channel slider that I bought is from a company called NB Spares. I'll show this to the camera real quick. I'm not sure you can read that, but there you go. And the reason why I picked out this one was, first of all, it was cheaper than the original Pioneer part, which was, I believe it was 40 euros to buy, and this one cost me 25 euros, so a considerable saving there. And also I read good reviews about the company, so I just wanted to try it out. And because I'm replacing only one slider on only one channel, it doesn't really, even if it doesn't work out, I can always go and buy the original part without losing that much money. Another nice addition to this particular slider is that it has a little dust rubber seal on top of it, which should kind of protect the slider in the long run, which I'm hoping to use for a while, obviously. The part number that I bought particularly is DWX2932. So there's a little bit of confusion between this and the one that's DWX2930. Essentially, the two of them are the same part, but the 30 is used normally for channel 1 fader, and the 32 is normally used for channel 3 fader, but they're essentially the same part, and both of these part numbers are written on the PCB board on this particular channel fader. The process of replacing the slider on DJM2000 and 2000 Nexus are fairly similar and not super complicated, so that's why I decided to do it myself. In both cases, you have this metal plate which only covers the sliders on either side of the effects section, which lets you open up only the faders and obviously change them, and the same applies for the crossfader, without actually having to open the whole faceplate, which is super useful and makes this process super quick and easy. The tools that we need for this repair, quote unquote, are quite simple actually. So what I have is just a set of screwdrivers, obviously the fader itself, and I also got a piece of paper, and you'll see why I'll be using that in just a second. Right, also what you need to take into account is that you need to unplug your mixer and make sure that it's discharged before you touch any of the electronics inside of it. So to begin this process, what we need is, like I said, the piece of paper, and I'll also get one of my small screwdrivers. The reason why I'm using these is because I need to remove these caps, and on the DJM2000 they're P-lock caps that Pioneer developed a few years back. So what this means is that we need to separately remove the middle white part of the fader cap before we can actually take the whole fader cap. And this is done because in the past a lot of these fader caps would just pop out in the club and cause all sorts of confusion in the middle of your gig. So to change these and to remove them, it's relatively simple. So what we do is we take our piece of paper, slide it under the cap, that way we won't scratch our faceplate, and then we take our tools and we just pry up, and then we just pry up the middle part of this fader cap. Then what happens is the actual cap slides out, and you can see it there. And then again you have this little sort of like P-lock part that goes onto the fader itself. It has like little teeth where you can kind of like lock it to the fader itself. Also, what you need to consider is when you buy your new faders, they also need to have these teeth in there so that the parts can kind of assemble properly. So we did this for the first one. Let's do the same for the second. And again, the process is the same. You just take your tool and you just pry up the middle part, then comes right off. Make sure you put your parts away so that you don't lose them. So the middle white bit, then the fader cap, then the little lock nut, and we're done. This is all we need to do in order to disassemble the fader caps. In order to remove the faceplate part of the faders, I've decided to go ahead and take one Phillips screwdriver. I've decided to take a bigger one because that will let me have a bit more torque so that my screwdriver doesn't slide off and scratch my faceplate. And then the whole plate is held down by these two screws, and then that's it. Then what we need to do is again take one of our small screwdrivers and just pry this open in order to reveal the insides of the mixer. You can see that they have these dust covers again. And this is actually quite heavy. I didn't expect it to be that heavy, which is quite reassuring. Obviously, Pioneer gear, high quality. Then what we need to do is just disassemble. Oh, it's a bit dusty in here, I might need to clean it. So what you need to do is just disassemble the cables. I'll just try and pull them out. There you go, they have this shoe. It's quite easy to pull out without any trouble. And finally what we need to do is unscrew these two nuts, these two screws in order to get the slider out. So probably this mixer has never been opened before, and that's why these screws were a bit troublesome to loosen up. I went and did that off camera, so what I just had to do a little bit of patience and the correct size tools, and eventually they came out. Obviously you have to be careful not to damage the screws because you need to reuse them for the new slider. So after you've unscrewed them, you can just take your slider and safely pull it out. There you go. Out with the old, in with the new. So then just make sure you put it in the same way that the old one came out. Bottom first, top second, and just you need to align your screws and, or screw holes should I say, and replace your screws. Again, make sure you don't damage the screws, as you have to go and then buy new ones. I'm liking this already. So then what you need to do after that is just replace your cable. Just put it back in the shoe the way it came out. This might be a bit difficult if you have big fingers like I do. There you go. But with a bit of patience, make sure you're patient for this, because obviously if you damage the cables, then this can easily ruin your afternoon quite quickly. There you go. Like I said, big fingers are not very beneficial in this particular case. Perfect. Seems to fit right in. There's no wobble. It was super easy to fix. So what I've done there is I've just replaced the two screws, made sure that there's no wobble in the faders, and just gave the fader caps a bit of a wipe because they've been dirty from all the time that they haven't been cleaned properly. In order to replace the fader caps, you just do the reverse of what we discussed when you remove them. So first of all, you put the little locket on, you you put back the fader cap on. Make sure that you put it in the correct orientation, because obviously otherwise you won't fit. Boom. And then finally you just replace the little white part, and that's all that you need to do. The same goes for the other slider. Again, correct orientation, and boom, done. The only reason why I had to remove this, the fader cap on channel 4, is because the plate covers both faders at the same time, so I can physically not take it apart without removing that cap as well. And that's it. That's all you need to do in order to replace your fader and have your mixer as good as new. Obviously the fader is a bit stiffer than my other faders at the moment, but with time it would loosen up, I'm sure, or it could potentially be oiled slightly, but that's probably going to be for another video. So anyway, this is all you need to do in order to replace your channel faders. You saw that it's a quick and easy thing to do, and you don't have to pay a bunch of money to do it. You just need to buy the correct parts and have the correct tools in hand. But yeah, I hope this was helpful to some of you, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.